Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You are watching a replay of our first PlayoutONE webinar, which we broadcast live on Friday, the 25th of May. However, due to a slight technical hitch, we lost the recording. So what we've decided to do is redo this for you. We've all got together, and over the next 45 minutes, we're going to show you exactly what we've been up to over the last few months. My name is Dave Bradley-Jones. I'm the Managing Director here at Radio Station Solutions. And joining me on this webinar, again, our fellow directors, Chris Oakley and Phil Johnson. Chris is our Development Director and Phil, our Sales Director. Together, the three of us, as I say, over the next 45 minutes. Really excited, really cannot wait to show you, again, what we've been up to over the last few months. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to bring Chris into the conversation, and I'm going to start, Chris, by asking you the same question I did last Friday. We are launching version 3 on Friday. And one big thing that we've done in this version is we've really overhauled the audio window. So much so, we've got rid of it and replaced it with a media finder. What is the media finder?
Well, Dave, the media finder, sorry, it's my best radio voice, that. The media finder is to replace the old audio window in PlayoutONE. And there's a few reasons we took the decision to overhaul this. The main one was performance. And it also gave us an opportunity to visit the bookmarking system and lift it out, give you more control. There's a few things that I'd like to show you. Firstly, on the new media finder, which is here, which I'll spin the mouse around so you can see that. We've got all of the items as you would expect to see, and we can use the wheel on the mouse to scroll through those, or we can drag the bar at the side and go up and down, etc. There's other ways to navigate through there. I'll show you that in a bit. Also at the top, we've got the bookmarks. As we can see, we've got everything, sweepers and adverts. And the very top, toolbar with pretty much the same controls that you would recognize from the previous audio list window. Also the search bar, which is there. Now, this is the easy search, which it's not actually called the easy search, but I've written it down as easy search. So maybe we should call it that. What it is, it allows you to just type in and the finder will start to look for what you want. You don't have to press return. With the old one, you would have to do that. So you'd press return once you'd typed what it was you're after. So, for example, if I wanted to look for simply red, for instance, I could type in red. No return pressed. There you go, it's there. I can delete that. If I was to search for country, you could see as I'm typing in, it's always found them already, but as I'm typing in, it's starting to look for things with that term in it. So, for instance, C, well, obviously it's a letter. It's in quite a few things, as you can see, and so on. So, typing in. I'm not pressing return or anything. It's literally searching as I am typing. And it's really fast as well, which is great. You can also jump, which is another feature that, well, actually, I can't even remember, actually. I don't think we had a jump in the audio list. No. Whereby, essentially, what you can do is, if, for instance, you're on the news and you want to look for, I don't know, I'm going to have to take a bit of a guess here because I'm not sure, 3601. Is that going to be there? No, it's
Spectacular fail from Chris.
No, it's not a fail. I just know it written down on my notes. Yeah, 1690. Let's just use that as an example.
Never taking for a game of bingo.
So if I was to type in, just literally type in 1690, bang, it takes you there, which is great. So it literally leaps to it. If we scroll back up again, just so it's not on the screen, if we were to do the same again and press Control and J, then we get a little text box appear. And that is where you can type the same thing in again. What was that number I typed in then? Was it 1690? I've forgotten.
Yes, it was.
And then, that's wrong, that's 1689, 1690, return. And again, it takes you there. It's just basically the best of both worlds. Some people like the text box and pressing return. Other people like to literally just start typing the numbers in, and it will take you there once you finish typing them in. Other thing is the bookmarks. Now, the bookmarks, really good, actually, because they're immediately updated across all machines which are connected to the same database. The old bookmarking system never did that. And we found that people were using them a heck of a lot. So what we've done is given you a completely new way of managing them. So I'm going to remove, just go into the bookmark manager. I'm going to delete adverts. So I'll show you actually how I can create that. And you can see it's disappeared, which is superb because that's what we wanted it to do. So we've got everything there, which is, as it says, everything. That one appears as a default bookmark when you start up this new version of PlayoutONE. If you click on sweepers, you can see we've already created the bookmark and it's just showing me the sweepers, which is superb. Now, if we go back to everything and say choose, we just want adverts, as we had before. So we click adverts, that filters it by adverts, but you don't want to do that every time. You don't have to start going into that menu. All you need to literally do is now from this position, click the star, and then it will add it in. And all you need to do is rename that new bookmark there. Just type that in, adverts. I can give it a colour if I want to, and then I can click save, and there it is in the top there. So I can now go between sweepers, adverts, and everything. And if I want to move it to a different place, again, right click, go into the bookmark manager, click it, move down, save, job done. Boom! How good is that? And if you get more and more and more, these little forward and backward arrows will, if you click on them, that will scroll through them all so you can see them all there on the screen. Some other new features, the presence of the green music icon, which is just here at the side. This tells you that the item in question has audio, an actual audio file on it. If it's not there, no audio is available. Also, other icons are the fade and the chain, also the split and the oversweep icon, the notes. If I scroll down there, we can see we've got there, that item has the fade. It's also set for split, got oversweeps, and there's notes on it. So we can see those notes. Whatever those notes are, that just, if I hover over it, just says some notes, because that's what I've actually typed in on that card, is just some notes. If you typed in, you know, Ramalama Ding Dong, it'd say Ramalama Ding Dong. Other processes remain the same, like double click to edit or instant play, depending on the option that you've chosen. Pretty much everything else should be familiar. But yeah, as I say, it gave us a chance to revisit the bookmarks and also really improve the performance of this list.
Absolutely fantastic. It's good stuff. I'm Phil Johnson. I'm the Sales Director of Radio Station Solutions. I'm the one that stands or sits the other side of the office and tries my best to understand what's going on. Sometimes it's very difficult, but it also gives me a unique experience because I like to think that the way I'm seeing the software develop and the users develop within it are very close to my heart because I'm not a coder, which is always good. So, Chris, quick question for you. Now, in version 3, V3, there's been quite a lot of talk about database engines. Again, I'm going to ask this question from the layman's point of view here. When PlayoutONE launched, we were using Access as a database engine. Then we introduced SQL. And now with version 3, we are kind of, insisting that SQL is used. Why is that?
Well, similar to the audio list, going to the audio, the media finder, it's performance largely. And also the features that it's got in there allows us to do a lot more. There's things that we don't have to sort of write loads of code for in the core program. We can just say to the SQL, can you just do this for us, please? And it does it. You know, it's always growing. So, you know, with new features of SQL coming out, we can sort of leverage those as well in the future.
But for those that don't know, SQL and SQL are the same thing. It's just, you say it slightly differently, don't you?
Yes.
Say that it's an S and a Q and an L, and it stands for SQL or SQL.
Well, is it
what does it actually stand for?
A sequel or an sequel?
What does it stand? What does it stand for?
Structured query language.
There we go. We know now.
There you go. I actually knew something. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Don't ask me what DNA stands for. I haven't got a clue. But yeah, it allows us to do a lot more. If we can do a lot more, then that means the end user can do a lot more. Now, it's important to note as well, if you're moving up to version 3, that transition to SQL is part of the installer. It will transfer it all across for you. And if you do have any trouble with it and you haven't got a support contract, we will help you anyway.
Yeah, because it's kind of fundamental for it working, isn't it? It needs to have a brain that operates correctly.
Yeah,
the database.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So just to reiterate where we are then, we are going to move to SQL. We're no longer supporting Access, and anybody that does install version 3 will be able to do that via the installer. And if you do have any problems, you can email our support team and I'll give you the support email address at the end of this session. So you are listening and watching our PlayoutONE webinar, our very first one. We did do it on Friday the 25th, but as I said at the start, slight technical hitch means that we couldn't bring you that recording. So we've all come together in the lovely studios of Radio Newark in Nottinghamshire. And in fact, I'm just going to turn the aircon on because it's actually quite warm in here with three blokes.
3 blokes and 3 cups of tea.
But it does to smell like engineering.
It's got that sort of whiff, hasn't it? It will get very cold soon, so I will turn it off, though. Right,
but
moving.
You've got your coat on.
I know. One thing that is really, really exciting for me is that in version 3, we're launching 2 new products. Phil's going to tell you, or Phil's going to ask the question to Chris on the second product in a second. I want to ask you, Chris, though, about LiveStream, because LiveStream has had various forms, whereas this one has really, really gone through a massive makeover. Very excited to see this. So please show our listeners and viewers what we've done with LiveStream. Okay.
Well, let's clear PlayoutONE out the way, and then let's go into the programming question, or the application question. This is PlayoutONE LiveStream version 3. And whilst it shares the same product name and purpose as the previous 2 LiveStream applications, that's all it shares. This is a completely new product. It's no longer a single stream app. You can set up as many encoders as you want, all streaming to different servers and at different rates with different codecs. So if we quickly go into this one here, you can see all the different encode types that you can use: MP3, AAC, and AAC Plus, or AAC-HE, as some people prefer to call it. We've got OGG, which sounds like a character from Shrek, and Opus, which was an 80s band, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Life is Life.
Life is life. Life is life. Life is life. Life is life. Whatever.
It was rubbish. Anyway, so that's how that particular bit works. So you do have quite a range of encoders, and I'd say the fun doesn't stop there. I suppose it is fun to have all those encoders, but LiveStream's also got built-in silence detection, which has the ability to email you and also to play an emergency file on loop. So if your stream source goes quiet, this will keep the thing going till you sort it out. If I pop into the settings here, if I go to silence and emergency, you can see the meters bobbing away there, and we can see where this is actually set. So if you were to sort of get that slider and say, put that up there, well, it's going to be checking for silence around that point. That's not strictly silence, is it? So you've just basically got an adjustable threshold that you can use. Now there's where it's turned on. If audio level goes below the threshold set for more than 5 seconds, then play this file. And that's the file there. And as it quite clearly says, this file will loop until audio is redetected. So you don't have to worry about having a 10-hour file or anything like that. It can literally be, maybe an hour, 2 hours. You can have it as long as you want. You can just have one song if you want on loop. Really tight rotation, like Atlantic 252. So that's that. And it also has, I say, the ability to email. So you can actually tick that, and then you can click in there and set your email settings for your servers and things like that. Go into that too much, there's no real need, but the fact is it has that ability, so you can get that email when things go wrong. You can also include DSPs. If we click on here, we've got one DSP installed at the moment, and we're ticked to start the DSPs when we click save or when the application starts up, and you can stack them as well and order them. So basically, with the stacking, as it says here, DSP plugins are stacked and chained in the order top to bottom. So the very top DSP will process the sound first, and then if there was another one here underneath it, it would then put that sound into that one, and that will process the sound. Then that one will process into the next one, and so on. So you can have quite a lot of DSPs in the chain. You better have a good CPU if you're going to do that.
And more than 2 ears. You need some replacement ones.
Yes, because they will bleed. But that's there if you require it. So supported inputs as well, direct sound, got all the usual ones, direct sound, Wasapi and ASIO, with input and output capture. Metadata as well. If you like to output your metadata, so you're now playing information, essentially, we've got various ways you can do that. We've got the billboard file, which you can click there and say, get metadata from a file, and then you can set the actual file there. With PlayoutONE, for instance, it's simple.txt, and then that will send that now playing information to your server. Well, it'll capture it and then it'll stream it to your encoder. Or you can enable this feature, which is capturing the metadata from a local port on this machine. So if you enable this and set a port, what that'll basically do is allow you to do a local host and then colon 8083 in this case, / and then a few other little bits and bobs which are in the documentation. But essentially it'll allow you to capture that information and send it through to your encoders, which I think it's quite a good feature, that.
It means it can also obviously interact with other programs, which is what we wanted to do, wasn't it? With this particular version of LiveStream, make it accessible not only for PlayoutONE.
Yeah.
To stress, if you don't have PlayoutONE, you don't need this. You don't need to have PlayoutONE to have LiveStream. It's a totally standalone product.
Yes.
And I think, as the point you made on the proper webinar, it's a product that runs not only your streaming, not only your silence detection, but it also does your logging as well.
Yes, and that's what I was going to get onto. Because if you've currently got a few applications, some people do. They've got one application that's streaming, you've got a second one that's detecting silence and managing that. And they usually have a third one as well, which logs their output. So you can do away with the third one now, because LiveStream will log your output to your selected format. And if we click on logging, these are the options that we have. You can here's the grid with all the hours, 0 to 23, and all the days of the week. So you can actually set where you want to log and not log. You can choose the file type that you log as, MP3, AAC, OGG, Opus, WAV, and then sample rate, bit rate, how many channels, and then set the file path that it's going to log into. And then if you want to delete your log files after a certain amount of time, as we've got set 5 days here, it will do that. It'll just keep that all nice and tidy for you. There's a bit of housekeeping for you. So it doesn't just because I can imagine some people don't set that and their hard drives just crash because they've run out of hard drive space. Well,
what used to happen years ago was that you had to set your data settings very, very low because of hard drive space being extremely expensive.
Yeah, it was a premium.
Less so now, but it's really nice with this product to be able to keep the quality. So for Ofcom UK stations, it's 42 days that you'll keep logging for, and you don't really want to be keeping that at a sub-broadcast quality, because you might want to be using it for something else, and this gives you the opportunity to set all those parameters, doesn't it?
That's absolutely right. Finally, I should say you can use LiveStream version 3 with one encoder and no features, totally free. So that enables you to try it out, see the power that it's going to give you. If you do put one of the features on, or you add another encoder, for example, all it'll do is put a tone out every 30 seconds, just to remind you need to put your hand in your pocket. But it does give you a chance to trial it, see the power that it does give.
When you said put your hand in your pocket, as a sales director here, I have to think that I am part of this team, but I don't want to really put my hand too deeply into my pocket. So, how much are we talking?
$49.99.
That's crazy.
How much would that cost?
Well, that's
all of those applications.
Yeah. You're talking at least 100
quid.
sterling for our international listeners and viewers. So it's an incredible product for the price. I really do think it is. Can I just take you back to one little setting on there, which is something I see come up quite a lot on our support system, because if people are using LiveStream currently, or using another streaming product to broadcast, they often have to have an external mixer or a set of virtual audio cables that reroutes the signal from the software out and back in again, which can kind of get a bit complicated. I noticed sort of there we have what we call the output device, which means what we hear coming out of our speakers, we can transmit to our Shoutcast and Icecast server. That's correct, isn't it?
You're talking about this bit here?
Yes. Yeah.
The input and the output?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is, yeah.
So, no, with this product, we do not need to have a mixer. We don't have any virtual audio cable set up. We literally can have our automation system, PlayoutONE, running and literally stream it from there, which I think is absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
We'll give you the link to go and have a look at a more in-depth video a little bit later on at the end of this session. But right now, I'm going to hand over to Phil, who takes a swig of his coffee.
It's getting cold, this.
Oh,
it's getting cold because you turn the aircon on in here.
Turned it off.
Cold tea now.
Turned it off.
Right.
How British tea.
Yes. We've just spoken about this wonderful piece of software, LiveStream, and it really is amazing value. But also looking at other bits of software we've been using over the past few years. I mean, Auto Importer this time round getting a makeover in version 3 as well. Really useful for stations, for example, taking the news from an external source, or if the user wants to import a bunch of pre-recorded programs. It's the old-fashioned way. We had to sit there in the office and do it ourselves years ago. But auto-importing can do the whole thing. So what is its makeover in version 3, Chris?
Well, auto-import, firstly, I apologise for the laughing in the background.
It's a happy place. Really knew it's a happy place.
It's not a laugh track.
We are in a proper broadcast station who are conducting interviews at the minute. So we do thank Radio Newark for the use of their facilities so that we can record this recap.
Yes, we're in one of the cheaper studios.
You spat me tea out.
Auto-importer. Okay, let's have a chat about auto-importer. Let's get it up on the screen. There he is. Oh, he's all over the place. Where's he going? Right, there we go. Now, auto-importer, this is following on the theme of massive overhauls. We've given auto-importer version 3 massive, well, it's not a makeover as much, more a facelift. We changed the identity. If you currently use the original auto-importer, you won't recognize this new version, to be honest with you. One of the main features is the ability to have multiple import profiles, and each profile can have different parameters. Prior to this, if you wanted to use multiple profiles with auto-importer, there was a little switch you had to put on the command line. You had to have multiple icons on your desktop in order to launch each one. And if we wanted to set up a profile, we can see immediately the wealth of different options. So if I click on New, that's going to open up the new import box. And we can see straight away you've got a couple of tabs here, which is a lot more than we had in the previous version. Obviously, import name, which is obviously one we want to give. And first off, actually, sorry, I'm going to delete this one because we did this one on the webinar and it's still there. And I want to call it news import because it's the same thing. So I'm going to call the import on this one news import. Just want to quickly walk you through some of these features. Now, in this particular instance, we're going to import a news item. This is going to come in via, I don't know, file copy or, some other means.
FTP.
Yeah, could come in anyway. Point is, it's going to end up in a folder on the hard drive and it needs importing into PlayoutONE. So we're going to use this to do that, and we're going to tell it it's going to be a specific UID because it's going to come in with the same UID each time. We're going to choose the import directory. We just find that. Probably already set import news. Yeah, I'm going to choose that one. Import computer. Now, the import computer is quite a good feature. This is something we didn't have on the other one. The reason we've got this in here is because this auto-importer it's shared across the database. So you could run it on this machine. You could run it on another machine. I'm sure, Dave and Phil could probably explain a reason why you would do that. But it has come up in the past. I'm aware of it. So we put it in so you can actually limit the machines that this particular profile would run on, and it helps prevent import clashes. That's as much as I know. It helps to funnel down your imports. Days to retain. That's the days to retain the actual imported and failed files, because any imported files and failed files go into their own folders once they're done, and you don't want all of them clogging up your hard drive, much like the logger in LiveStream.
Yeah.
Enabled, well, speaks for itself, doesn't it? Means that the profile is actually enabled and will work. Let's have a look at some of the options. So if you go to the options tab, you can see all of these different ones here. You can preserve titles, types, intros, artist categories. There's some audio details here. We can tick to normalize. If you're a fan of normalizing, you can have the audio automatically normalized for you. Some other options there. You can set the extro, oversweep, set as audio. Some of these are beyond me, but these are the basic ones that most people would be familiar with and would use straight away. So we're going to move on to overrides. Have a quick look there. Now, overrides is where we would use this in this particular instance, because we want to set this item, because it's news, we want to set the type for it. I don't think we need to set a category for that. We just need to set the type. We could set the intros and extras if we knew how long they were going to be, etc. That's where you could use that, and then you can set the thresholds for those as well for extras and trim outs, etc. And title override, artist override, set the year to. Well, we're going to actually set the title as well. We're going to just call it news import, and we're going to move on just here so you can see the email. You can enable these or not enable them. So when it's successfully imported, you can get an email, or when it fails, which is probably more important, you can get, as a station manager, an email to say, your news hasn't imported, matey boy. You better get onto this, find out what's happened. You can tick that, put your email address in there, and it will email when it doesn't work.
Again, when you said that, Chris, when things fail, what usually is it down to?
Usually fail files, more often than not, they fail because they're either in use on the system. So, for instance, if you tried to import the news and it was playing out on the system in some way or another, someone was pre-fading it, maybe they had it open in the edit audio window, or maybe it's actually playing out in one of the players, that would lock the audio. It would lock the file, which is standard computer behavior. Yeah. It might fail for that. Usually it's some usage case like that, or maybe a virus scanner is checking it at that particular point. So that would then fail the file. But the good thing is, we do have an option here to re-import failed files. As it says there in the little tooltip, when failed files, it's a tongue twister this, will be re-imported up to 3 times. So if it does fail, then it has another go, fails again, has another go, fails again. And then eventually it'll put it into the failed files folder, and you'll get an email to say it's failed big time. You won't get an email on each fail. You just get an email on the overall failure. So that's that. If we save that now, there is my new profile. And as I say, it's multi-import, so you can have lots and lots and lots of other ones. You can have one, for songs, other production maybe. If you're using it for, this is a good one actually, outside broadcasts. So if you've got somebody, a roving reporter, maybe using an app on an iPhone, and they're recording things into it, and that goes then automatically into a Dropbox. Yeah. And then that can automatically be imported into PlayoutONE and top and tailed, and whoever's looking after the show can literally just play it either via a quick key or by dragging it in.
This is a massive difference, isn't it, from stations years ago that were taking news on the hour live from satellite feeds, or for an OB would have a human go out and wait for a clock start to do something. I mean, this is, although it may look a little bit complicated at the start when you set it up, it means that you can, everybody that's working around your radio station has got lots of time and energy and effort to get the content right. And this thing does all of the old-fashioned carting up, as it were. Yeah, to put it into the system to make it work.
That's right.
So we've killed another job in radio.
For good reason. The creativity, it remains. It's just the churning doesn't have to happen.
Absolutely.
So the creativity is fine, but it's just that, this is doing all of the mundane tasks.
Yeah. Now, what we've done is we set this profile up. We want to see it in action. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy my news item here. Actually, I have a horrible feeling because we did this the other day. I think it might still be, it's still there. So what I'm going to do is, for the purposes of this, I'm going to delete that because this is the one we did on the webinar. Yeah. And I've not had the foresight to actually delete it yet. So there we go. He's gone. So let's just go back to Auto Importer. Right, well, before I go to Auto Importer, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to pop it into the folder which I set it to monitor. And that was in here. News. I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm going to have to be quick, I think, because it's usually quite quick to catch an item has appeared. So we just give it a second or two, we'll see it light up. There we go. It's gone green. It's pulling it in. It's telling us what it's doing. It's normalizing it. Because it's normalized it, it has to write it back because it's changed the file. So it's popped it in. And there we go. It's popped it in. It said, I've imported news.mp3 because we chose the specific UID and it's not auto UID'd it. It's told us there that's the UID. If we let it auto UID and it picked the next available UID number, which might have been 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, whatever, it would tell us there what it imported into. Okay, so if we go back into PlayoutONE, and there it is, news import. That's the one that I've just pulled in, and you can see it's got its UID there, news, and its title is news import. And it's also important to note that if an item does have metadata in it, Auto Importer will pick up the metadata and will use that, unless, of course, you specify, on the override that you don't want to do that. You want to give it an actual name, then you can do that. And it's also worth noting that the profiles, they run in parallel. So you don't have to wait for the first one to finish before the next one starts, which I think is very important, because if you've got multiple profiles in your list here, the last thing you want to do is wait for, like I said, the news one's the last in the list. You don't want to wait for someone's pre-recorded 1 hour program to be processed before the news comes in. So you don't have that. It's brilliant. It really is. And price-wise, it's $49.99. If you want to use it as it is with just one import, then you can do free of charge, unlicensed. But if you license it, then you can get all of the lovely, fascinating, multiple profiles all in parallel.
It's a fantastic shirt you're wearing today.
Thank you for mentioning that, since no one can see it.
Well, I'm going to take a photo, actually, so
we'll share that.
You can have it, because as you, if you don't see the photo, basically it was a public holiday yesterday, and it was really sunny where Chris was, and he's turned up today into the middle of the country, and it's not so
quite gloomy here.
Yeah, not quite so bright.
It's grim.
Yeah,
it
so
really is.
It's a strong shirt you're wearing, though. Very good.
I got to the Pennines, and the sun disappeared and never came back again.
For our international friends, they're like mountains.
Well,
yes, that's
hills.
Hills.
Yeah, I
hills.
suppose. Yeah.
I suppose they are.
Brilliant. Well, Auto Importer looks great. Can't wait to see our users using it. And like you say, so many great uses. If you're importing news, if you've got a bunch of pre-recorded programs, it really, really is impressive. And it's so quick and easy to set up as well. You'll be using it within no time at all. Fantastic stuff. Right. At this point on the live webinar, we'd have had some questions from our panelists and audience. We had loads, actually. Yeah. In fact, actually, maybe that's why you wore that shirt, because someone was listening in Corfu Airport. Maybe you're doing a dedication to them today, Chris.
No, it's just a Hawaiian shirt. Just found it in the closet.
All right.
Yeah, well, maybe it should have stayed there. So at this point in the webinar, we did have some questions from our live audience on Facebook, but unfortunately, as we've already explained, we did have a few technical difficulties. So this is a rerun of the first webinar. We did, however, have some pre-questions, so we're going to go through those now. And the first question was that some people asked how to edit a playlist, and I don't think some of our users actually know that. Yes, you've got the main playlist as we have on the screen here, but there is a secondary playlist editor which you can open to, for example, have a little look at what's coming up on tomorrow's show or what's coming up a bit later. How do people open the playlist editor up, Chris?
Okay, so in answer to your question, on the main playlist here, we can see there's a little icon, open the playlist editor. So we click on there, and that will do just that, opens this up. Now, this doesn't interfere with the playline in any way whatsoever. It is literally for you to edit your shows, edit your playlists, etc. And you can insert some voice tracks as well, so that's all there, it's all functional. If you click on the calendar, you can open one up. So choose 1900, it's selected there, so let's choose that. And there we go, there's the 1900 playlist for today. We could then go, and click there, insert a voice track, and move things around if you want to, change the chain status, and then save it back. If you click save, that's it. It's all saved in, and that will then be loaded in, ready to rock and roll.
Cool. Now, you did mention the chain there.
Yes.
And again, on the live webinar, we did explain what the chain was. So I think for the purpose of this replay webinar, we should explain what is the chain.
That's a song by Fleetwood Mac, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, he said that again.
I know.
We told you at the start, no.
No jokes, man.
This is supposed to be like an as was rerun. Because it went wrong. No, so the chain essentially is telling PlayoutONE to either play the next item after it's finished or not. So in this example, Mr. Blue Sky, ELO, once that's on a player and it's playing, when it gets to the end, it won't continue playing into the sweep 2 there and then onto Liam Payne and so on and so forth. It's a way of stopping the play line so you can then talk, chat, do weather, whatever it is that you need to do. If it is ticked, which means it is chained, it means it means opposite. It means it will play. So, for instance, Liam Payne would play, and then Sweeper 3 would play, and then Sweeper 4 would play in this instance. It just go from one thing to the next. But if you want to stop it, you've got to untick it. That means it will play and then stop at the end.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Because it is a misconception, I think, that playout systems take over your show. I've heard that so many times before when people have come to me and have said, "Oh, I don't want a playout system because it will dictate to me what I can do." And I always say, no, it's there to help you. It's your buddy. It's your best friend.
Yeah. The program controller will dictate what you've got to do.
That's correct, yes. But this is here to help. And I think that's very, very worthwhile bringing that one up again, that thought that I've heard recently.
Yeah.
So that's the playlist editor, which is absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about the mixdown feature, because I think this is quite useful for production houses as well as radio stations. They can use this software to create podcasts or syndicated programs. Not many people know about this little feature. PlayoutONE has a mixdown feature in it, which allows recordings of programs very, very easily and then mixing down of them before you dispatch them. Isn't that right, Chris?
That's right. So if we were to use this playlist here, and this works for the playlist editor and the main playlist, if you wanted to mix down this entire playlist here with your voice tracks in and everything, you've typed it up using the seg editor and so on, if you were to just right-click, you see at the bottom it says mix down, so we choose that. That gives us this very simple mix down playlist window where you can tell it the file that you want it to mix it to, and then you click start. It's literally that
It's taking
simple.
all that information in the playlist, turning it into one file that any media player can play.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can choose WAV or MP3, and all you need to do is just change the extension there where it says mixdown.wav. You can change it to mixdown.mp3, and it will do that for you. If you wanted to maybe mix down a specific section, say for instance you wanted to go from George Benson up to Kylie, you can just do a shift when you're selecting and choose that little lot, and then right click again, mix down, and same again, you just click start mix down. And because you've chosen because you've chosen a range, it knows that, and it will just mix from that point to that point.
Oh, I see. Sweet.
And then you can package that off to wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, really, really useful for those people, for example, that may record, 2-hour soul show, 2-hour rock show, for example. They want to package that off and send it to various stations around the world. Very, very useful indeed.
And if those stations have got any sense, they'll have auto importer and it'll suck it straight in.
PlayoutONE, folks.
That's amazing.
It is the future.
It's almost like a sales message.
Yeah, that is advertising. You can't be doing that. So I want to talk about now the seg editor and ducking, because that has been overhauled slightly in version 3. First of all, ducking. What is ducking?
Ducking, if we go to the types menu, well, it's not a menu as such, it's a window, isn't it? Where you've got all your types set up, like sweeper and song, see them there. There's various options now, a few more added, depends on how far behind you are with PlayoutONE. Some of these have gradually evolved, but essentially where you are now is you can see we've got a duck tick box column and a duck volume column. Now, what that means is if I've ticked sweeper, which we have here, and voice is ticked as well, if something is either side of those items that it isn't a duck, like a song, for example, in this situation, it will duck that song to 50% of its volume. So what happens then is it will automatically ramp down the song, it will play the sweeper nice and loud over the top of the song, and then once it's finished, it will ramp the song back up again. If you've got a song either side,
can we see that in the seg editor there?
Absolutely. One of the things I want to do is just adjust that to say 75. There's a reason for that, because when we did the webinar, it wasn't very clear, the line.
We've learned from our mistakes.
Yes. So if we now go into, well, let's just let's put it out there. There we go. So you can see with John Waite, well, he's a fade, so he's not affected by the ducking because he's going to fade out anyway, so it's irrelevant. If we were to take the fade off, we could see how the duck would affect that, and you can see that it would duck down and it drop right off there because the next thing is pretty much started straight away. If I move it a little bit, you can see, and you can see how it's affecting. Oops. So let me zoom out a little bit there. You can see how it's starting to affect how these will work. So there's John Waite. He's going to duck down a little bit because the sweeper's started. Then he's going to plateau there. And then the next item starts. So that needs to be faded out because the next item started. and it will comfortably get rid of that. Sweeper's still going, obviously. So we can see this little line here at the start with Kylie, and then she ramps up there where the sweeper's finished.
I think that's I know you work tirelessly on making that bit of it, the ducking, work, whereas some systems would, bring the duck back up at the end of the actual file. You spent quite a lot of time making it work where the actual audio ends, and we can see that quite clearly on that sweeper there. There's about 2 seconds worth of silence on the end there.
Yeah.
But the ramp, the duck up, appears where the actual audio finishes, and I think you can really hear how great that sounds on the air, can't you?
It sounds very much like a human being does riding a fader, and it's exceptional.
Yeah, and the beauty of this is you can just go straight in with your playlist, and it's taken care of automatically. You don't have to worry about it. No messing around with the envelopes and things like that.
And all that stuff, if you do any work in the Seg editor on a playlist, that all mixes down as it was done in the Seg editor, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's excuse me. That's important to note as well. Yeah, the mix down. All the ducks. It would play. It would mix down as it would play out.
Excellent. We've got loads of things here. Lots of questions that we got on Friday. We did answer them, which we couldn't answer all of them because we didn't have enough time in the hour. But some of the interesting ones we've had now. Paul Tasker sent us this through. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about SQL, so SQL and Access and whatnot. He says here, do you need a SQL or SQL server for PlayoutONE, or can you run it just off one machine? For example, if I wanted to use it for an outside broadcast or with DJing, just for a simple Playout PC, would it work?
Yeah, it would. Okay. No, you don't need a fancy rack-mounted server in order to do this. So you can just take a laptop and it'll run comfortably on a laptop. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Paul, for that one.
Yes,
that answers the question.
Thank you, Paul. Mitch Johnson also got in touch and was asking about Auto DJ and how you would, for example, set an Auto DJ profile up, but actually set the chain for certain items in the hour. So, for example, he could create a playlist, but it would generate that playlist with the stops in place, like you showed us with the chain. How would you go about doing that?
It's quite straightforward. Again, if you pop to the little, well, I suppose that's not settings, is it? It's like your
I always call it an expandable menu. I don't know what the official term you gave.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
You probably can't remember. He's wearing that shirt. I mean, he can't remember. It isn't 1988 anymore.
I hate you too. So yeah, the expandable menu, options, apps, whatever you want to call it. If you go up to there and choose the Auto DJ Manager, that will then pop up the Auto DJ configuration window. We've already got a test profile in here from the other day, and we can see we've got song, sweeper. We could have then song, maybe another sweeper. And you can continue that down. You can put all sorts, mix it up there, and with different categories and alternative categories and so on and so forth. But what's specific to this question is, if you wanted to go song, sweeper, song, and then stop before so you can chat and then go into the next song, and you want the Auto DJ to take care of all of this, what you would need to do is on that particular song, take the chain tick off. And then that would, as I say before, we were showing you the chain, that would give it that effect. So it would play whatever song it chooses, then it would play whatever sweeper it chooses, then it would play whatever song it chooses there, and then stop. You can then chat, and then you can press play next, and it will then start playing that song. And you can continue that down the theme. So once you've done that, you can click save, and then away you go. You just run that via the Auto DJ profile, and it will then continue to do that for you.
Mitch's second question was, what is the difference between the Auto DJ on-off button and the big auto button on the top blue bar there? And I think it's good to clear this one up, actually, because we do get a lot of support on what that auto button does.
Yeah. Well, first, the Auto DJ button, if you were to choose a profile, which is our test profile there, you could choose that and pop that in there. That's ineffective until you turn that on. So once you turn that on, that kicks the Auto DJ in, and it will start to follow your profile that you set up, like the one we just saw, going song, sweeper, song, sweeper, and so on, and setting the chain as is. If in that situation, you then go, oh, I've got to go for some reason or another. If you
change your shirt.
Change your shirt, yeah. Or something else.
I'm going to buy you one of these shirts. I'm going to force you to wear it.
As long as you include the receipt.
You're not funny. If you then have to go, you click the auto button, and I'll just make it go green. And what that then does is it doesn't change all the chains from, stop to go, but what it will do is it will ignore them. So it'll treat every chain as I have to play the next item. So you don't then have to start going down, clicking all your chains and going, oh, we've got to change. How long am I going to be? I need to make sure these are all ticked. You just click auto and you can go. And when you're finished and you come back and you do want to go revert back to normal, click it again and it goes off.
That's good, especially if you do need to go back to next.
I don't think maybe take that back, would they? 28-day policy?
Philippe, I'd like to be able to print the played information. Right now we can't. We can only see on the screen. I'd like to be able to access it and print it, not just from a computer that's running the software, but anywhere on the network. How do I do it?
Playlist history, then.
So if we were to choose a song like, for instance, Money's Too Tight to Mention, is the audio history report, isn't it? And you can see them all there. And you've got a little print icon. You can print them all off and see where they were all played.
Lovely.
You can set your range there as well if you want to funnel it down a bit more.
Excellent.
That's really useful, especially for, I think you mentioned on the proper webinar for, TX plays for clients or something like that.
I mean, if you've got ads that are playing for clients, they do like to see what's going on. They like to have little receipts, as it were, and it's a really quick way of saying, well, we did play your audio, and this is when we did it.
Now, we wrapped up the webinar by sort of scooting over James Martin's question, because we said he'd asked for a lot of things that we were going to cover in our next webinar in June, because it's something else we're going to add to the product line that we're very, very excited about, and we were quite candid about it. You said you were looking at it.
I was, and now you guys are in here because you weren't the other night.
Yep.
You were down there. He was up here. I was in the middle of the country. You're actually in Studio 2 at Radio, and you can see it
right
on
now.
The screen.
Yeah. So, James, we are still going to say that, and we're not going to answer your question, and we are going to tease people over to the next webinar, because we've been not only working on these great products, which I hope you'll agree, but we've been also working on another version of PlayoutONE that we are going to dedicate a whole hour to next month. Details will be on our Facebook page, and we really, really hope you will join us for that. So that is going to be all to do with the next webinar. So details coming very soon. If you are not already signed up to the Facebook page, please do get involved. You can go to facebook.com/playoutone. You'll get all the information there. Recap on pricing. PlayoutONE V3 is out on Friday, the 1st of June. So if you're watching this after the 1st of June, then go and download it from the website. It's a free upgrade for all our PlayoutONE customers. If you're not a customer, then you can buy PlayoutONE for £99 per license from PlayoutONE.com. If you can hear some doors slamming behind me.
That's people buying it.
Yeah, that is people literally leaving the
The orders are coming in ready for the 1st of June, or if it's after that, for that.
It's also 7 o'clock and the sports show starting next door. LiveStream and Auto Importer are both priced at $49.99 sterling, or you can purchase our PlayoutONE app pack from the website, which includes not only Auto Importer and File Copy and LiveStream and Surface and remote voice tracking, all for £199.
And a free Hawaiian shirt.
For the first person to buy it. You will not be receiving a refund if you want to send it back. For more details, as I say, please see our website or contact info@playoutone.com. Thank you again for watching this replay. We apologise we couldn't bring you the original recording, but we hope you've enjoyed this mock-up, and we hope to see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.